Good morning, guys. Gypsy here. Most people call me Tina. I prefer to be called Gypsy. Um, Today, I thought I would hit on a subject that's kind of hard for me to talk about, but it's something that's needed to be talked about. And I hope you guys can hear me good. I got the fan going. It's hot in here. As you know, I like putting on my face when I'm chit chatting. So, got the fan on so my face won't melt away. So, what do I want to talk about today? So I titled this um, Mental Illness and Where It Can Get Us If Not Kept in Check. And the reason why I titled it this way is because I wanted to share something that I did years and years ago, um, which I know now why I did it, mentally why I did it, but I didn't know then. And neither did my family, neither did friends, neither did the townspeople. And it was held against me for a very long time. And I don't blame anybody for holding it against me because what I did was really horrible. Um, my actions alone are my problem. It's what it's what I did. The influences I had were wrong. Um, and still to this day, I hold a little bit of a grudge because I got in trouble for something that I did, and I deserved that. But it wasn't my fault, if you got what I'm saying. The other people involved, or the other person involved, did not get into any trouble at all. And I'll explain a little more on that um, as I go with this story. And I ask you all, before I start this story, don't judge me and don't hold this against me. Um, it's something I've done when I was young. I was not on drugs. I was not drinking. I was just hanging out with friends. And I was honestly hanging out with the wrong friend, to be quite honest about it. I'm putting on my little wrinkle cream stuff here. It's supposed to hide that aging in them wrinkles. Been using it for a while. Kind of like it. First I primered my face and then I put this on. So while I let this dry, I was 15, getting close to turning 16. And all of the little gang of people and everybody in our town of Thomasville, we all hung out at the arcade of town. And there had been so many fights and things that were breaking out there that we now had some restrictions. One was us women had to turn in our pocketbooks. If you came in with book bags or anything like that, you had to turn them in. And of course, we can no longer use the opposite sex bathrooms. Whereas, people used to go into the bathrooms and just hang out and get drunk and do drugs or whatever. And, if they were in the girls' bathroom and the girls had to use the bathroom, we'd go over to the guys. If they were in the guys and the guys had to use the bathroom, they'd go over to the girls. And so they had put a stop to that. And if we were caught doing that, we were going to be kicked out. Well, at the time, I did carry a switchblade, uh, not a switchblade, a butterfly knife with me. Everywhere I went, I carried that knife with me. Not with the intent on hurting people, but with the intent on surviving. Because at the time I was being molested, my brother was trying to sell me into sex and drug trafficking. I had to walk a lot. I was homeless. So carrying a knife was my protection. And I was really small. I might have been 100 pounds. I'm not sure. Not like these days, but yeah. So and I had this friend that I hung out with. I wouldn't really call her my best friend because I didn't really have friends. But back when you're a teenager, you hang out with a friend that's kind of cool to party with, kind of cool to hang with, got the connections, and hangs out with other cool people, things like that. So I had made friends with this girl named Holly, and we went everywhere together. We hung out, we just did everything together. And I liked her pretty good. Now, she wasn't but 15 years old, but she looked like she was 20. She was a tall girl, big bone girl, and I don't mean overweight. She was a very beautiful girl and I believe she was going into modeling. And she was a little strong on herself, if you will. She, uh, she knew she was pretty, and she knew she was bigger than the majority of the people that we went to school with. And I now know that by her actions, she was overcompensating for something. I still don't quite know what. Well, I kind of do now because her life has completely changed around now. But anyways, she was with me on a couple occasions of things that had happened to me. So she always had this habit when we would come across these girls that were a lot smaller than us, lower grades, um, tiny little girls, meek little girls. Um, Holly would be always like, "Hey, watch this. I'm scared the shit out of these girls, right?" So she'd go up to some girls, or some girls would pass her or something, be coming her way, and she'd be like, "Hey, heard you was running your mouth." Just bullying him, because she could. Because where everybody else was 4 and 5 foot tall, she was right at 6 foot tall. And I'm telling you, model condition. She was ready for the magazines, ready for the camera. She really was. But bigger than just about anybody in our school. And these girls would always cry. I mean, she just wouldn't stop until they were crying. She loved to see them cry for some reason. And they'd run off scared, whatever. And she got such a kick out of this. She really did. I personally couldn't understand it. Why I didn't just walk away and say, "You know what? You're too mean. I ain't hanging out with you." I don't know. I didn't really have friends in school because, like I said, there was some things that were going on, and kids didn't understand that, or there was things going on in their lives, and they could see it in mine, and they just didn't want to be, I don't know, reminded. Because most of us going to school was like somewhat our safe haven. It got us away from the crap that we was going through at home. So, anyways, we were all at the arcade one night, hanging out, doing our thing, shooting pool, whatever, playing video games, hanging out with our friends, chit chatting. And we had a friend, which I thought was a lifelong friend of mine. I thought a lot of her. She was a short little tiny thing. And she was one of these that I think one leg was longer than the other or something. And so she had a little bit of a funny walk. Um, and I just after her. She was like my little baby doll that I took care of. You know, I really did think a lot of her, and I felt really bad for her, to be honest. So, anyways, she's pregnant. Tanya's pregnant. And I had tried getting into the bathroom, and a couple other people had tried getting into the bathroom. And there was these girls in there, and you could hear them giggling, laughing, carrying on, just having a good time. And we knew we couldn't go over and use the boys' bathroom because we was going to get kicked out. And we were the ones that were trying to keep the rules, whereas other people just didn't really care because they could go somewhere else and hang out. But this little group of ours, this is the only place we really had to go to hang out. That was close enough that we could walk to. Our friends was there, so we tried to keep the rules. Tanya comes up to me and she says, I have got to use the bathroom. Now she's about 7 months pregnant, 8 months pregnant. So you know she's gotta go. You know what I'm saying? She's pregnant. She's only 4 foot something. Her belly is as big as she is tall. She was so cute, but you know, she had to go to the bathroom. So I went and knocked on the door again, was going to try to, ask these girls, can we please get in? Tanya's going to use the bathroom. She's pregnant. I went in peace. I really did. I went in peace. And I could hear them laughing, giggling, and then they're cussing, go away, go the F away, and laughing. I mean, you could tell they were just drunk, really drunk, out of their mind, and they're not coming out of this bathroom. So I see Holly, and I'm like, can you believe this? These girls are in here drunk. They've been in here for a while, and they won't come out. Tanya's got to pee. We cannot go outside and pee anymore. We've gotten in trouble for that. And if I'm not mistaken, they had put some kind of cameras up or something. And she's pregnant. It's not going to be easy for her to squat down and pee. So anyways, Holly is like, I got this. Holly proceeds to go up to the door, banging on the door, cussing. Get your ass out here, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to kick your ass, whatever. And I mean, she is talking some stone stuff because I guess at this point she is assuming these are little girls in the bathroom, or at least smaller girls in the bathroom. Well, she finally got their attention. Now, there's a stage that you kind of step up on to go to that bathroom. And Holly is standing up on that stage. I'm behind her to the left, down the stage. Step down. Tanya is over to her right, kind of behind her, down the stage like I am. The door opens up, and here come these two monstrous looking mountain women. I mean, 6 foot tall, not the slender fit trim like Holly was, but overweight, really big, bulldog looking in the face girls. Well, the one girl couldn't really make it past the door, but the other girl was standing tall. And she come out the door, and because Holly was like, I'm gonna kick your ass. And she came out the door and she was like, let's go. Who's ready to fight? And right then Holly turned and pointed at me and said, she did it. She said it. Tina did it. I'm standing behind her. She's up on a stage at the bathroom door. I'm way back here. And she points at me. So the girl come at me and she started walking toward me. And I just calmly looked at her and I said, wait 1 minute. I'll be right back. And I remember I walked over to the counter where my pocketbook was at. I asked the guy for my pocketbook. I grabbed my butterfly knife. I threw my pocketbook behind the counter. I walked back up. She's still kind of up on stage. I'm probably 10 foot from her, maybe. And I flip out the blade and I look at her and I honestly say, if you charge me, I'm going to cut you. I thought she would take that as a warning and then go, okay, let's not do this. But I tried to warn her because to me, that was self defense. This big old girl was coming at me and she was every bit, oh my gosh, I bet pushing 300 pounds. And not all fat. Like I said, she was a big boned mountain girl. And I tried to warn her, but she came at me anyways. And I blanked out. I cannot tell you what I did. I can't tell you what I saw. There was nothing. I, like blackness just came from around my head and to my face, and I was out of it. And what brought me through was I heard someone say, Tina, stop, you're bleeding. And I remember I kind of opened my eyes and she's laying on the floor screaming and crying. And I look up and I have cut my arm, which is where this scar come from. I had cut my arm somehow as I was holding her down and stabbing her. Come to find out, I had stabbed her 11 times. I will repeat that. I stabbed her 11 times. I pierced her heart. I pierced her lung. I pierced her kidney. Um, there were several stabs to the heart, several to the lungs, and to the kidney. She must have been rolling around or something. Um, but when I came to and I saw my arm, I just threw the knife behind, walked over, got my pocketbook, and walked out into the alley. And I remember that I'd done it so calmly. I remember thinking, why are you so calm? Do you not know what you just did? I mean, I remember thinking this to myself. Why are you so calm? And I remember Holly and my boyfriend, Michael, at the time, come running through the alley calling my name. It's a dark alley, there's no lights on. And the alley leads out to the back parking lot. And they come running up to me, and Michael, bagging into and his bandanas on all the time. Michael had his bandana on, and I remember he took it off and wrapped it around my arm. And they were talking about having to get me to the hospital real fast. And I remember them asking me what hospital did I want to go to. And I wanted to go to High Point Hospital because my family had never had any good luck with the Thomasville Hospital. So I was like, take me to High Point. Well, Holly puts me in her car and she takes me to Thomasville Hospital instead. I guess she freaked out and thought, we're not going to have time to get to High Point. I'm going to just take her on to Thomasville. So I get in Thomasville. Of course, the law has been called. I get into my room. I'm laying there. I'm all calm. I'm in triage. And they start rolling this girl in that I had stabbed, and her name is Joy. And they start rolling her in, and she is just a cussing coming down. She was just a cussing coming down the hallway. Where's she at? I'm gonna kill her, and all of this. And they're trying their best to calm her down. She's just this drunk that she is in no pain. She knows that something happened, but she doesn't realize how seriously she has been stabbed. And I remember seeing her as they rolled her by my room, and she's sitting up on the bed. They're trying to get her pushed down and stuff, and she's just screaming, "Where is she at? Where is she at?" And I remember thinking, oh, that's great comfort because she's alive. And so here comes the surgeon. He's going to sew my arm up. And in behind him comes an officer who now handcuffs me onto the frame of the bed on the opposite side, on this side. And he's sitting here telling me that he heard it was a paid fight, that I was paid to kill this girl, which was complete bogus. But the reason why they thought that was because the boyfriend that I had at the time was a hitman who did get paid to kill people, but I was no part of that. And this boyfriend of mine went missing several times, and what he would do was go into hiding and watch me for months at a time. And the cops knew that I was in a relationship with him, so they just automatically assumed it was a paid hit. So anywho, we after they stitch me up, they take the officer arrests me, takes me out to his car, puts me in the back seat, and we are now on our way to the police station, which was basically right around the corner. But then the officer made this call in. And, it's hard to understand their lingo when they're talking to each other. But the call to me didn't sound right. Something was wrong about the call because it almost sounded like he said that he was making a check stop to check on someone or something on the way there. And so I'm noticing he's not going toward the hospital. He is headed down Highway 64. He cut through Randolph Street and then hit Highway 64 down, what is that, Lower Lake Road or something like that, I'm not sure. And I asked him, where are we going? Oh, we're just going to take us a joyride. You're not in no big hurry to get there, are you? I was like, no, not really. But I knew something was up. Long story short, he pulls down this dirt road. He comes over, he gets out of the car and he comes over to the back door, opens it up, and he kind of sits inside and leaves the door open, kind of with his foot propping the door open. And he says, so you were paid to do that, right? I was like, no, I wasn't. And he was insisting that he had information that I was paid, that the person who paid me confessed to it. I knew it was all bogus because I was not paid to do it. I was in a situation where I felt like I had to do it. So then he tells me, well, I could just open this door here and say you got away, and you could easily just kind of skip town because it looks like this girl's gonna make it. And I looked at him and I was like, yeah, and what's the catch? And then now he's reaching over and fondling me in the back seat of his police car. This, guys, is where I have no respect for law enforcement at all. None. Because this wasn't the first time police officers let me down. And so I'm having to fight him off in the backseat of his police car. His radio is going off because, he's only got so much time now to get his prisoner to the station, or flags are going to go up. So out of frustration, he jumps up, he's mad, he's angry. He says, this ain't going to end here. I'm still handcuffed in the back seat. Now, he did not unhandcuff me. I'm having to fight him and kick him with my feet to keep him off of me. Officer Tim Smith. I'll never forget that name. Officer Tim Smith, Davidson County Police Department, Thomasville, North Carolina. So anyways, I go to jail. I am the youngest one there. I'm not even 16. They decide, Judge Michael is all I can remember, decides that I am now going to be the first juvenile tried as an adult in the state of North Carolina. And he very clearly told me he was going to make an example out of me for the future kids, because our kids are getting out of hand. And make an example out of me he did. I got I got 5 years probation, a year house arrest, $10,000 in restitution fees for her hospital bills. And I have to admit, I was on house arrest. I was supposed to be on house arrest. 6 months had passed and they hadn't put me on house arrest yet. They had given me a probation officer that was a female that was very mean. And she thought she was going to treat me like the judge treated me. What none of these people understood, and I kind of blame this on my mother. My mama never once tried to get me an attorney. No one saw this as self-defense. I did. I was scared. This girl was coming at me. She was going to attack me. I did warn her, and she still charged me even though I had a weapon. This is self-defense. But my mama did not help me. She told me I deserved it. And I remember thinking, where did I learn it, Mom? You taught me this. You taught me to stab people. You taught me to cut people. I mean, it was every weekend I was watching her stab my stepfather or cut his hands wide open or pour gasoline on him and set him on fire. This was how I was raised. Come to find out, and I know now, 30 some years later, that I have PTSD. And that's what happened. And I had fight or flight syndrome. My fight or flight syndrome is kicked on. Now, fight or flight syndrome is something everybody has. It comes on when you become afraid, when you're faced with something that's dangerous. You get afraid about something, your fight or flight syndrome comes on, and what that means is either you're going to have two responses. You're either going to fight that situation or you're going to run from that situation. If it's very dangerous, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to fight it. What's happening in my case, because I was raised the way I was, always having to be on guard, always having to be in the middle of a fight, and I can't tell you how many times I was hit in the middle of their fights. Like one time going down the highway, they just got married and they were drunk and they were fighting along the way, and I was in the back seat and I was getting scared because we were all over the highway. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and they had stopped the car so they could sit in the front seat and punch each other. I had leaned over the seat to try to separate them, and when I did, my stepfather went to go hit Mama and instead hit me, and hit me so hard that it fractured my jaw. So this was the kind of life that I was raised up in, and so my fight or flight syndrome was always on. Now, I didn't know about the fight or flight syndrome until I was in my early 20s when I went to go get therapy and help because I could tell something was wrong. So anyways, I did not get any help in court, and I really felt like I got the shitty end of the deal because this was self-defense. And this girl ended up being 18 years old. I was 15. So they made an example out of me in court. They really did. I went to prison for a little bit. And the reason why I was there so long was because it was back in the day when they were changing if you'll remember in Davidson County, they were changing the cells around. Like in the men's cell blocks, they were painting pink with teddy bears. And in the women's cell blocks, they was painting blue or something. I don't remember. But they were having to switch prisoners from one prison to the next prison to, and separating them out so that they could do this construction and remodeling whatever on the prisons. And I remember they're booking me, and everybody's hollering at me, fresh meat, fresh meat. And I had expected that, so that didn't bother me. Didn't bother me at all because here I am thinking, once I get in there and you find out that this little girl here has stabbed somebody 11 times, not many people's going to mess with me. So it didn't bother me. I was so small and so little that when I got in there, everybody took care of me like I was a little baby doll. They made sure my arms stayed wrapped. They made sure I had food. They made sure I had whatever I needed because these were older women in here. These were women that were in here for a while. I'm going to be in here for a while. And so they took care of me, and in lots of ways, they actually respected me for what I'd done when I didn't tell them what I had done. So prison wasn't so hard for me. And that's just giving glory to God because God's going to take care of us no matter where we're at, no matter the situation we're in. And He took care of me while I was in prison, because there's so many things that could have happened to me. And being so young, I could have very easily been overpowered. And instead of being hurt or overpowered, God had each one of them lovely ladies to take care of me, really take care of me. And I do appreciate God for that. Though I did not know God then, I was in witchcraft. I was dabbling in witchcraft, which is another reason why my life was so chaotic. So I remember calling my mom and all, and she wasn't going to let me out. She told me to just deal with it. And so I called my dad, and my dad was like, "What? You know, I'm daddy's little baby." So he was really upset about that. And so come visiting day, I remember I was short, so small, that they had to put a little table up at you go into this little room, and it's got this little window, way up top, that you look through and you can talk to your visitors back then. And I was so short that I couldn't see the little thing up there. So they brought me in this little table, and they stood me up on the table so I could see through that little hole. And I remember when I looked through the little hole and I caught Daddy's eyes, and Daddy looked at me, he just teared up. And it was, oh baby, what happened, baby this, I'm so sad, baby. And I saw that it broke my daddy's heart. And that meant so much to me, because my mother was like, you deserve it, stay there. But I guess what helped was my daddy knew what I was going through. He knew what kind of life I actually had to live with my mother and with my brother. And so, it was breaking Daddy's heart. But Daddy ended up putting up his house and his car, and he sold some things, and he made the money to get me out so that I wouldn't have to sit there much longer. Because I was put in prison awaiting due date, court date. And actually what they was doing was waiting on me to turn 16 years old. So I was going to be sitting in prison for 6 to 3 months, I guess, till I turned 16. And so Daddy got me out. But I was supposed to have been on house arrest. Now, the first probation officer they gave me was a woman who kind of took her job just a wee bit too serious. And what I mean by serious, she let it go to her head. And I'm going to be one of the first to say that I don't think women should be in power very much at all, because we work on our emotions. And if we don't have a good grip on our emotions, we don't need to be controlling things. And not many of us women really do have a good grip on our emotions. So anyways, me and her butt heads a little bit. And she threatened me for no reason. I mean, she just got bold and blunt. I can't remember what all she said, but she just kind of really tried to stick it to me hard, as if she was trying to show me I'm a badass probation officer, and it's my way or you're going to prison. And I just wouldn't stand for that. I never let people talk to me that way. I didn't talk to people that way. I wasn't even going to let this probation officer talk to me that way. So I had a few words with her. And of course, she put a report out on me. Well, then that ticked Mama off. And so Mama had a few words with her. Mama would never tell me what she said. But next thing I know, I have another probation officer, and this one is a guy. And I couldn't ever imagine having so much fun on probation. This probation officer was just a few years older than I was. And I remember I was a flirty person, so I just flirted like crazy with him. Not for getting off of probation or anything. I was just a really flirty person. And I would make him blush so much. And we kind of just sort of became flirty friends. um, he would do things like come by and pick me up in the afternoon. Like this one time, he bought a motorcycle, and it was his lunch break, and he wanted to go try that motorcycle out. So he come by and got me, and we went motorcycle riding. Um, I did get by with a lot because he was a new supervisor. They brought in, a new probation officer. They brought in a new supervisor, his supervisor, to come out and do a house check on me and all this good stuff. And was going to see about setting me up on the house arrest. Well, they happened to come over when I was laying out in the sun. Now, regardless of this old lady that you see here, there was a day that I looked good, and there was no hiding it. And so I'm laying out in the sun, and here comes the two probation officers around the corner, And when I lay out in the sun, I don't like tan lines. I'll just leave it at that. I don't like tan lines. So here they come around the corner. I'm a frisky young girl, and I really didn't take, I just kind of took my time grabbing my towel and wrapping it around me or whatever. And from there, they wanted to go see the bed. It was just a lot of chit chat, they were being guys. I was being a girl, nothing really to it. Anyways, they wanted to go in and see where my monitor was going to be and all this good stuff. And then the probation officer's supervisor, Brad Bisick, he saw a picture of my sister. And he's like, "Oh, who is this gorgeous woman?" I said, "That's my sister." So he wanted to know about my sister a little bit. So I told him, and she happened to be single, So I had this AC/DC concert coming up. And I was like, he wanted to meet her, he wanted to talk to her and all this good stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. I says, gonna be kind of hard to kind of get you guys together. I'm on house arrest and all this. And he was like, "You know what? I'll make you a deal." He said, "You fix me up with your sister, and I won't put you on house arrest for 6 months." Now, it's already been 6 months. I was supposed to be put on house arrest. But they had to keep switching me probation officers because every time I got one that was a female, she just wanted to be all barbaric and, whatever. And that just didn't fly over. So they finally got me the male probation officers. So anyways, I made a deal. I called my sister. Long story short, I went to the AC/DC concert. Had a good time. They still didn't come out for 3 months to get me hooked up on my house arrest device. And I remember back in the days, guys, you're doing drugs for the first time, you're trying them out, you just want to see what they're like. Well, on house arrest, I couldn't go 100 feet. I could go but 50 feet outside of my house, perimeter, all the way around my house. If I went into the kitchen, my alarm was going off. So my dumb butt, when I got bored, would get a little acid in me. Sorry, I got to tell the truth here. And I would get on the lawnmower. I would set my phone in my bedroom window, and I'd get on the lawnmower, and I knew that I could go around that house 2 times, I think it was, and then my phone would ring. On house arrest back then, I don't know if it's the same now, On house arrest back then, when the phone rang, you had to answer it and you had to say the states in alphabetical order, and you had to say them properly or you would be there all night long repeating yourself. And after so long, the cops would just show up. So I'd go around the house a couple times and stop, phone ring, I'd grab it and I would try my best to say those states. And, I have a speech impairment, anyways. It was really bad back then. But I had a really bad speech impairment on top of being messed up. But that was my fun while I was on house arrest. But the moral of what I'm trying to say here is I had PTSD and I had fight or flight syndrome back then. And the way I responded to the girl was because of it. But no one bothered to help me. They just saw me as a menace to society. They saw me as a danger. It got to where people wouldn't rent homes to me. They wouldn't give me jobs. I did make the newspaper. Like I said, I was the first teenager tried as an adult in the state of North Carolina. So there was no, oh, that wasn't me. Everybody knew that was me, unfortunately. And I did end up having to leave and move to Statesville to get away from all of that and to have a new start where people did not know me, which was awesome. That was the best move I could have ever made. I'm a new me. If people know my story, it's because I willingly told it and I tell it with truth and honesty every time because I regret it. And I'm going to tell you, I had to own up to that as well. When I was 19, I was pregnant with my son. And we lived on, what was that, Sunset Drive in Thomasville? Sunset something in Thomasville. And I'm out swinging in my little swing on my front porch. And I noticed my neighbor sitting there watching me. And I thought, okay, who's this? Now, since I had stabbed this girl over the years, I remained in the same town. I would see her at doctor's offices. I would get scared. I'd leave. I'd cancel my appointment, whatever I had to do, because I was always taught if they made it through it, they gonna come back after you. So I was always kind of watching my back because I did expect her to come and pay what I done. I would have hunted somebody down until I got them and paid them back. And I get to looking, and lo and behold, it's Joy. She is my freaking next door neighbor. And I was thinking, oh, at first I became scared. But then God started talking to me. And He started talking to me about an apology. Because the one thing, and I don't regret things that happen in my life. And I tell people, don't regret them. Don't regret them. Because they build you, they teach you, they give you skills. Sure, some of them may be bad, but you got to look at the good. There's always something good in the bad. And that good outweighs that bad. In the end, it outweighs that bad. So always look for the good. And forgiveness is a very, very big part of life that is a must. It is an absolute have to. And stabbing this girl was something that even I cannot understand. I could have killed her. For what? For nothing, honestly. She didn't do anything to deserve to be stabbed like that. Just a simple fight would have been great. If it had to be something like that, just a simple fight. There didn't have to be stabbing. I didn't have to stab her so many times. There didn't have to be that kind of a bloodshed, that near death experience. That was uncalled for. And I always held that against myself. And even till today, I mean, I have forgiven myself because now I understand that it wasn't me that was doing it. It was these mental illnesses. It was all this stuff that I was going through in life. So I thought, there she is. I'm going to have to apologize. I'm going to have to make ends right. I got to thinking the way she's staring at me, she's probably wondering if I am who she thinks I am. And so I kind of stood up and looked at her and let her kind of look at me real good, thinking, yeah, it's me. Let's go ahead and do this, get this thing over with. And sure enough, she started walking my way. And she come up and asked me if I was Tina. I said, yeah. She said, do you remember me? And I said, yes, I do. And I immediately started crying. And I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I did that to you. You didn't deserve it. I don't know why I done it. I mean, I just remember bawling. And then she apologized to me. She apologized to me for being drunk. She apologized to me for the way she handled it. And I thought, how awesome is that? That's just cool, you know? So we settled our ends. No fighting, no nothing. Life was good. And I felt so much better. And that has not really bothered me since. It still bothers me that, it was uncalled for it to go so far like it did. But apparently there was, God had a greater reasoning for it. And we did make amends. She did not hold a grudge against me. And that really meant a lot. But the town held a grudge against me. They would not let it go. So I had to leave town. And then now that I have found out, that I have PTSD, that um, I have generalized anxiety, manic depression, fight or flight syndrome. Now I know why I done those things, and I don't beat myself up about them anymore. Um, and I'm not that person anymore. Um, I am under a doctor's care. I've been under a doctor's care really since I was 19. Um, I do good most days. I do not attack people anymore. Um, I'm not a fighter anymore. If I have to fight, I will throw down, and that's another thing. I try not to fight because I will still just black out. That fight or flight syndrome kicks in, and I just simply black out. I am learning to control that too before I black out. I'm not a fighting kind of person, but sometimes you encounter people who are, unfortunately. And some people won't just end things with a conversation and let it go, or they won't do what they're supposed to do on their end, and they would prefer to push your buttons, push you around, um, intimidating you. If someone's hitting you or something like that, you've got every right in the world to defend yourself, and I'm all about defending yourself. And I have had to defend myself kind of a few times in the past year surrounding issues with my daughter. I had to defend myself and defend my daughter recently. He was pepper sprayed and everything. Um, but, it's not who I am. It's not what I want to do. And even in that fight there, I held control. I'm learning to hold the control of my rage and my anger. And I owe that all to Cymbalta. I believe in it. It is a hard drug. It is a drug that you do not want to just come off of. Um, but Cymbalta has really, really helped me keep myself in check. It's really helped me keep my PTSD in check. And so, I'm doing good. That's not the first time I have ever hurt anyone, but I did not, you know, it wasn't because I freaked out. I actually had to defend myself one time when someone was coming at me um, with a knife and threatening to kill me, and I had no other choice but to shoot them. Um, but I guess, the point that I'm trying to make here is when people with mental illness mess up, don't completely blame them. Don't hate them for what they've done. Hate the sin, like God says. Hate that sin, but don't hate the person. Get them help. They need help. And lots of times by our actions, what we're actually doing is begging you guys for help. We're begging you to help us understand what's happening with us. And please don't hold the things that we do against us, because we're not acting in our own head. We're not being the real us that we should have been. Um, if you've raised up being abused, molested, bullied, it's a hard life. And if it starts when you are a young person, a child, and up, you become that. You become what you're raised in. And yes, we are given free will of choice, but sometimes we can't see that we have free will of choice until later in life. And then it becomes a lot harder to fight, but at least we're trying, you know, at least we're trying to fight. We're trying to fix ourselves. And, if you have kids that seem to be acting out, that are violent, um, please get to know your child, get to know what's happening, reevaluate your family life. What are you teaching your child? Is your child picking those things up from you? If so, it's not too late to change that. It's really not. Um, Keep in mind, though, the Bible does tell us that in this day and time, the daughters will turn against the mothers, and the sons will turn against the fathers. And it's not going to matter how we raise them, how much we love them, or what we do for them. This is the sign of times, and this is how they're going to have to live their life and learn, much like we did. So I'm learning too that we can't let our kids beat us up or let our past beat us up. We have to keep going forward. We have to look for solutions. We have to study our conditions. We have to get to know us, you know, what triggers us. And just try not to let what people say and people think hold you back in making a change in your life. And if, like me, you have hurt someone in the past, physically hurt them, um, mentally, emotionally, whatever the case, please go back, find that person, and apologize. Apologize. If you have to write a letter, send it. Send it in a text, find them on Facebook, apologize. You don't even have to socialize with them. Just apologize. You can do the same thing in just a letter that maybe you never get a chance to send. Maybe you don't know their address or where they're at. Still, write them a letter, apologize, put it in a Bible, hold on to it, put it in a keepsake place. You never know when you might run into them or you might find out something about where they live or something. If they've passed on, take it to the gravesite, you know, put it down there. Do what you can to ask for forgiveness for the things that you've done wrong to people and ask God for forgiveness, but most of all, forgive yourself for the things that you've done. Research your mental illness. Take psychological tests online. They're free. They're real. I don't mean the games from Facebook. I mean things, just from WebMD and different things like that. They have some real authentic questionnaires on different psychological illnesses, and they encourage you to print out your results and take them to a doctor, and it will encourage the doctor to do further testing on you. Get to know yourself. If you have mental illness, if you're taking care of someone with mental illness, get to know them. Get to know what that illness is, how that illness affects them, and the probable causes of why they have that illness. Um, Mental illness is real. I believe in a lot of cases it's not something that we're born with, but something that we are taught in a way, kind of brainwashed into us. You know, we didn't wake up and say, hey, I want to go on a rampage and beat people up today or stab people or, whatever. We never wake up with that thing in our mind. It's just sometimes things happens and it triggers us, and there we are, you know. But like I said, stabbing this girl was the only thing in life that I ever done to anyone that I absolutely regret. I'm very happy, very proud that she's alive. She's had children. She's doing great. There was no damage. Me and her made amends, and that means really a whole lot to me. And, I ask you guys, don't judge me. I'm opening myself up to you guys because I know that there's other people out there like me, other people who has gone through these things, these temperaments, and you don't understand why. And I'm letting you know now, you're not a mean person. You're not a bad person. You just have some mental baggage that you need a little help with. And even though I probably kind of seem like I really don't got it together here, and who am I to be talking about getting help and what you should do and all. I am a psychological therapist. I am a cognitive life behavioral therapist. And what that means is I study the brain pattern, how it thinks, how it functions. I study yours. And I kind of teach you a way to retrain your brain to think. And that's what I'm doing. That's why I do these videos. That's why I do meditation. That's why I do all the different spiritual modalities that I do. I try every and any alternative medical treatment or therapy. I'm an NLP practitioner. I do the tapping. I do energy reading. I do chakra cleansings. I do all of that. Plus, I take the man-made medications. And I'm trying. I'm working on it. I am not who I was 25, 30 years ago. It's a long process, but it's very fulfilling. And each time that you see that you've made a change, each time that you notice, hey, in this case scenario, normally I would have acted like this, but instead I've done that. Yes. I mean, it's just rewarding to see yourself making progress, even though if it's small progress. And one thing about it, you're going to see the changes most likely before anybody else does. And that is something that can really bring you down and it can set you back. But I'm going to tell you, each time you get set back by that, just remember, tell yourself where you came from, how far you've come. You and God know how far you've come. You and God know how hard you're trying. God's sending you help. He knows you're trying, and that's all that really matters. If no one else in your family, no one in your support system understands that, then fine, go with that. Because God's going to send people to you that's going to help you. And a couple more little things that I learned that I've been doing that's helping me before I get off of here. As I've got these books that's titled different things. One is like A Grandma's Love Never Ends, and I got that one for Sophie. So when I get sad and I think about Sophie, I often will alter out because I now have dissociative identity disorder, which used to be multiple personalities. So when I'm thinking about her, I will switch out. And so I got that book so that I can write my thoughts and talk to her in that book. And in hopes one day I'll give her that book and she'll know that all this time I've been talking to her and thinking about her. Then I have one that's a good day to ponder on things. And it's got a little color and stuff in there so you can color while you're thinking and all. And I thought that would be good for those moments when I'm thinking, what if this would have happened? Or I wonder if this has anything to do with that, and I've just got those wondering thoughts. So I write them in there. I've got one that says something like teachers are a gift from heaven or something like that. I kind of got that one so that I can talk to God because I feel like He's my teacher and I'm learning so much as I go through this mental illness, as I'm opening up live doing YouTubes and Facebook and just really accepting who I am. I use that book to kind of write to Him the things that He's taught me and give Him praise for that, things that I've learned about myself, about my children, about other people when it involves emotions and mental illness. And so, I got a few books that's just kind of titled like that. And so I'll write in them quite often. I meditate quite often. And I purposely keep things away that I don't see them or deal with them so they won't trigger me, like pictures of my grandbaby. As much as I want my pictures up on my walls, as much as I want to see my grandbaby, as much as I want to remember those fond moments when we took those pictures, and I can tell you everything we was doing with each picture in each video. Right now, myself and my family, we cannot handle looking at her pictures every day because it feels like, to us, to me, it feels like my daughter didn't just take her away from me. It feels like they died. Because when you can't see anyone anymore and you can't talk to them anymore, and it's like they're not existing anymore, like death, and that's just the way it feels. But I want to put her pictures up. At some point, I want to get strong enough to be able to put her pictures up. I'm getting to the place now that I can go out in public around kids, and I can be around kids without breaking down. So I'm making progress. But that's my tips. Look for your triggers, write your triggers down, get to recognize them, and try to stay away from the things that trigger you. So I hope this has helped somebody. Um, I look like a hot mess, but anyways, thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.